today's debate has been followed keenly by all those with an interest in what happens in Syria, particularly by those who call the country home.
Chris Kiddie spent the afternoon with one family in Bradford who have relatives living there and who say bombing ISIS might create more problems than it solves.
But this is not all about national pride.
Surgeon Sharif Al-Ghazal watching today's debate. He came here from Syria 25 years ago to raise a family. He says President Assad is the main problem in his home country.
I think by bombing ISIS will cause more destruction, will cause more civilian problems, and killing is not going to solve the problem. I think without having a concrete plan on the ground, supporting the Free Syrian Army and the moderate opposition, it will be very difficult.
The Al-Ghazals can understand why there's a feeling that Britain should strike back at ISIS in the wake of the attacks in Paris, but they're urging caution.
I think we need to realise when dealing with ISIL, when dealing with this death cult, this terrorist group, there needs to be a comprehensive plan in place. There needs to be an overall strategy. I feel that as much as we want to be and as much as we should be in solidarity with the French, I think there hasn't been a lot of thought into how we will go about dealing with ISIL, dealing with this cancer in the Middle East.
And of course, the family have many memories of happier times in Syria.
It's saddening to see this, really, because like Syria, I used to go there every summer and it was like my holiday, and seeing my family was like everything to me, and seeing this happen is really saddening, especially the fact that they're going to bomb like innocent civilians as well as bombing ISIS. Like, to be honest, they're not going to get rid of the whole ideology. It'll just create extremists within like Syria, and then people get annoyed and it's just going to create chaos.
If the British planes come and bomb Syria, it's not going to make the biggest of differences because you've already got lots of other countries bombing as well.
This then is just one family among many in our region who will be taking more than a keen interest in events in Syria over the coming days. Chris Kiddie, ITV News, Bradford.
Well, a little earlier, we were joined in the studio by Zaki Kaf Al-Ghazal from the Syrian Association of Yorkshire, and from London by Stuart Andrew, the Conservative MP for Pudsey, who voted for airstrikes. We asked Zaki for his reaction to the yes vote last night.
To be honest with you, I wasn't very happy at all. I was against the airstrikes. I was against the decision. Whilst I do see the rationale behind it, I don't think it's the right idea. I think that any strategy to deal with ISIL in Syria has to take a holistic approach. I think the government have missed out a crucial opportunity in terms of dealing against the Assad government. No solution against ISIL will ever work if you don't deal with the Assad regime as well, unfortunately. And something very important to remember is that the Syrian people in Raqqa, which is the self-styled ISIL capital in Syria, are actually very much against the airstrikes. They see it as bombs falling from just about every other state.
What would you say to Zaki then? You voted for the airstrikes, they're now taking place. What would you say to Zaki?
Well, I think the first thing I'd say is that this has been an incredibly difficult decision to make, and I sat for the full 10 hours in that debate yesterday, listening to both sides of the argument. But through my experiences having visited a Syrian refugee camp in southern Turkey and listening to the accounts of people there, and listening and seeing what we have in the way that Daesh are behaving, persecuting the people there, and actually becoming a real security threat for our country, I felt on balance that the airstrikes, coupled with all the other things that will happen at the same time, was the right approach to take, because we need to take out their central command.
But do you accept, Stuart, do you accept that there will be inevitably civilian casualties along the way?
Well, I sincerely hope not, but I understand, of course, that that is a direct possibility. The reason why our Air Force has been asked to contribute is that we do have these very specific missiles that are very targeted, and we've been asked by other countries to join for that reason.
Zaki, have you spoken to your family in Syria today after that vote went through?
I managed to speak to them in the morning, yes. I mean, I have extended family there, so most of my mum's family, so aunts, uncles, my grandma. And to be honest with you, with them, they're trying to get along with their daily lives. They try every day to deal with stuff. Unfortunately, you know, with the political situation in Syria, and because they live under government-held territory, they can't exactly speak about politics. They can't be saying, we're against the government, we do this, we do that. The bottom line is, I will say, who are we to decide for the Syrian people when the Syrian people themselves have said, please, we don't want these bombs. These bombs will not affect us.
Well, Stuart, what do you say to that? They don't want you to bomb them.
Well, I have to say, as I say, I went to a Syrian refugee camp and spoke to people who have been fleeing these areas because of the persecution. And they said something very different to me, that they wanted us to take action because they want to go back home.
But Stuart, do you not think now that we have started our bombing campaign in Syria, we are perhaps bringing fear and the inevitability of attacks here in the UK?
I'm afraid that fear was already here. We heard yesterday how the security services have foiled 7 big attacks in this country. So to say that the airstrikes will fuel it, the fact is that danger was already there.
Zaki, if airstrikes aren't the answer, what is?
Like I was saying before, when the exiles from Raqqa, when they were in Gaziantep in southern Turkey on the Syrian border, when these guys were interviewed, one of the things they said, if I was in front of David Cameron, if I was in front of the British Parliament, the first things I would say deal with Assad, deal with the instigator of this mess. One of the biggest problems for me as a British Syrian, I worry about Syria because it's no longer seen within the lens of the Arab Spring and a popular protest movement. People see Syria as just an issue of counter-terrorism, let's deal with ISIL, and the Syrian people are caught in the middle of it. No one speaks about the Syrian people, no one speaks about the future they want in a free, democratic state.
OK, well, we've got to leave it there. Zaki Kaf Al-Ghazal, thank you so much for talking to us, and also in London, Stuart Andrew, thank you.